Hello, and welcome to this edition of The Best Pictures. This is Shaming Part 2. We're going to mostly be talking about Harvey Weinstein. This is Happy Harvey, pre-sexual accusations Harvey.
This is Harvey now. Oh,
That's Harvey now. Not so happy Harvey.
and they're comparing him to Bill Cosby up there.
Yep. Who's not going to be really in this shaming episode, although I feel like that could be a future shaming episode. Alex is our special guest today.
Hello, everyone. I'm here to imbue you with my knowledge, or lack thereof.
So like I was telling you guys earlier, I got on IMDb today, and Harvey Weinstein has 328 producing credits. That's not necessarily all movies, but there's a lot of movies on here that it's just like, wow, he's got his hand in everything. You know, a lot of...
Literally.
Yeah, exactly, literally.
I don't know if that's something to joke about, but yes, he's...
Hand and other body parts.
Yes.
Yes. But there was one I saw that he produced that I wanted to bring up because one of the main actors in that film happened to be Kevin Spacey, who incidentally is also going to be part of the shaming episode today. I don't remember which one it was, but I mean, there's just so many movies that he was in. And if you guys want to kind of fill everybody in on what Harvey's been accused of, while I look for it.
Oh, yeah. I mean, he's obviously been accused of being a troll. A rapist troll, basically.
There's some stuff there. So yeah,
Unlike some of the other people that were accused of using their power to seduce people or whatever, this guy's out and out accused of raping people, breaking into their rooms and forcibly having sex with them.
Yeah.
I mean, he's taken it to another level, a level beyond most of the other accused folks.
Yeah.
Just to use, for instance, in comparison, to use, say, Dustin Hoffman. You know, Dustin Hoffman is accused of saying things or making a pass at people, but he's not accused of like physically raping anybody. You know, which is a big difference.
And
And not that I'm defending him.
I'm surprised some of these actors didn't use that I was method acting excuse, you know.
That's what I would.
But none of them have made those excuses yet, you know what I mean? It was the character I was playing. I was method acting. But he's obviously but it's been this obviously been revealed, any power structure. It's not necessarily Hollywood, but any positions of power. That's the issue. Like any positions of power, you're gonna attract people that are going to use that in nefarious ways. I mean, that's just common, you know. Like religious organizations have to be careful of that because it's very easy for someone who's a con man or someone that wants to abuse the power, abuse other people, to use the moral veil of authority or the veil of moral authority to do their bidding. So Hollywood's no different. It's they get in a position of power, and then being on a Hollywood set or a film as a PA or a low end of the total pole, you sort of are a sycophant because you want to be in the business, but you know what I mean. You got to deal with. They're not really sycophants, but you can't say anything because your job depends on word of mouth, basically, or moving up. Depends not on your skill, but on whether or not people want you to be in their next project or not. So we were gonna do this show about Kevin Spacey.
Yes.
Because he's been in a ton of films, and you're talking about like what movies don't you watch? So we'll have that argument. Do you still watch some of these films? And before the whole Kevin Spacey thing came out, where Kevin Spacey made his career on playing a power hungry or just playing really good dirtbags.
Yeah,
I mean,
and it turns out he wasn't acting.
That's our line.
Yeah,
he wasn't acting.
He wasn't acting.
Like,
he was just being himself.
He would play these snarky dirtbags,
Swimming with sharks.
that you would enjoy, like watching him perform and play, and be like, what is this guy like in real life? I mean, is it tough for him to play these roles? And you'd always wonder that about Kevin Spacey because he would do an excellent job playing dirtbags.
Yeah.
But I mean, it really, what's the argument? Was it like therapy for him, or was
Exactly.
was he like a semi dirtbag, and then he started playing these dirtbag roles, and he just let it all out, and then it was just no stopping him from there, or what's the argument on that? Or did playing these roles
Turn him into
a dirtbag?
exactly. That's the
But
other
I'm
question.
thinking he was a dirtbag, and he had these issues, and taking these roles, he kind of gravitated to these roles because that allowed him to maybe be himself.
Yeah, and get paid a lot of money.
I think before he wasn't a big star, he would have to like keep it under the down low, and so picking these dirtbaggery roles that spoke to him, he understood those characters and he could perform them, and then that allowed him a little therapy. He could actually be his true dirtbaggery self. But then when he got the star power, it was like no one would call him on his dirtbaggeriness.
Right,
And
exactly.
So it was just like all out. When you
Yeah.
hear some of these stories, he was the biggest one. I mean, he did come on strong to a young guy in in his 20s.
He's underage.
But he was the director of what theater in England? He was the director for a period of time, the creative director and theater in England, and he would invite all the actors to career sessions at the end of the day and have wine and cheese set up and then just hit on every single one of the actors. So it was total. And then I guess on the set of House of Cards, yeah, I mean, if anyone's seen the House of Cards for Netflix, he plays Senator, I forget the senator's name, but that rises to power to become president. But the guy is a wicked dirtbag. I mean, he'll do anything to move up in the political world. He's got a relationship with his wife, which is more of a business relationship. They love each other because they're both conniving and they're willing to do anything to grab power. Then they also in the series have there's undertones of Frank Underwood, his character Frank Underwood.
Okay.
There's undertones of him being a gay man, but being married for political purposes. They had those scenes in there, and then there's one scene where him and his wife had a sexual encounter with one of their security guards. So it almost like begs the question, like, is this Kevin Spacey's story?
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because no one knew that he was a gay man. He kind of kept it under wraps.
Yeah,
for
he
his
did for
career
a long time. Yeah.
until the accusations came out,
And then
and then that was revealed, but he was more of a predatorial gay man, and then I guess on the set of House of Cards he was like the classic like dirtbag actor prima donna, like would like treat assistants like crap on set and degrade
kind of
them.
like Swimming with Sharks.
Yeah,
like
he created a toxic. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah,
like Spoon
exactly.
created
Yeah.
a toxic environment and abused his power because he was the star of the show.
Yeah, right.
The
And the
producer
show was huge.
is like without him.
I mean,
and that's what happens with these stars. Like they are the character. It's like you can't. It costs a lot of money. And it's really difficult to replace that main character. They're the one that
well,
drives.
as she found out, it wasn't impossible.
Well, they didn't but I mean,
Yeah,
it's
well,
not
that-
the show.
but yeah.
I mean, to be honest with you, the show's not the same.
I'm sure
without
it's
him.
not. I'm sure it's
I mean,
not.
who
I haven't
can
seen
play
it,
a
but-
better dirtbag than a real life dirtbag?
Dirtbag, exactly.
So what did they?
I guess
what did they
what
do?
we're asking is, what's your opinion? Like,
Did they
most
replace him?
what are your favorite Kevin Spacey dirtbag films? And I mean,
I like American Beauty a lot.
yeah, and we'll get to that.
Yeah, that's definitely part of the
Yes,
discussion.
yeah.
But
So-
one thing I did want to mention, because we're gonna bounce back between
Yeah.
him and Harvey.
Yeah.
Listen to some of these the titles of some of the movies that Harvey Weinstein's associated with, and
Yeah.
tell me what you think. School for Scoundrels.
Yeah.
Zach and Miri Make a Porno. Sicko. Grindhouse.
Yeah, I know.
Should we have not seen this coming?
Yeah.
I mean, there's even more, but those are the four that I just see right
I
here.
think it's
Hell
true.
Ride. You know, I mean,
Yeah.
it's like, which one of these is based on his true story?
Yeah.
'Cause I think Sicko says it's a documentary.
Yeah.
So maybe.
That just brought to mind. I mean, isn't the general cultural, the media, what the media presents to us about women? Because you have to think about it. It's all like, white predatory males that are running Hollywood, and so the choices they make about content, influence the culture, especially when it comes to pop stars. I mean, they have young girls who are barely 18 dressed up like prostitutes to sell music.
Yeah.
I mean, what kind of image? You know, the fact, whatever. So, what does that say? What does that say about our society or the people that are, the people that are making those decisions? You know.
No, I know, I agree. And it's people like Harvey Weinstein that have that power that are doing stuff
Yeah.
like that, you know?
Yeah.
Exactly. You know, it's, I don't know, but like I said, I mean, some of these, just some big, I mean, The King's Speech, he was an executive producer on that. He was the main producer and won Best Picture for
Yeah.
Shakespeare in Love.
Yeah.
And we talked about how he lobbied for that.
Oh yeah.
Because everybody knows Shakespeare in Love shouldn't have won Best
he
Picture
called
over
for
Saving
that.
Private
Probably
Ryan.
paid off people. You know?
Yeah, you know?
Sent all the members a check in the mail. You know.
Yeah, because he has all these producing credentials and stuff,
Yeah.
and still had never won an Oscar.
Yeah.
Until 1998, which sounds like a long time ago, but I mean, when you're like 65 or whatever he is, and you've done 328 movies, you know, he'd
Yeah.
probably done 150 to 200 before that. You know, he's probably sick of having his name not read, because he's been nominated several times. So.
Yeah, he was the king of super producer. You know. He's one
Oh
of the
yeah, absolutely.
top 5. You know.
Mhm.
Out of Hollywood. So.
Well, can we, one of the questions we kind of brought up is, can we boycott him?
Yeah, and that's a difficult thing because I feel there's a lot of projects that he was only the executive producer on.
A lot of them.
And you have to understand that
He's not the big wig running the show.
Yeah, if you got one, it's like let's just say you work for a company that has 200 people in it, and you're proud of the product that you put out, and you may have like 3 or 4 dirt bags in that company. Should you not? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I mean, there's a lot of people that work on these films. The writers, they may,
Yeah, you don't know.
The
I mean,
director
we
could've
could
been
end up
fine.
having to boycott everything in
the
Hollywood.
performers, and all the crew and people that contributed creatively to these films. I mean, you're boycotting them and their work too. So, it's unfortunate, but I don't think you should boycott the films.
Another question
Yeah.
Don had is maybe just going forward boycotting them. And I don't think Harvey Weinstein's going to be an issue. I don't think he's going to be doing anything ever again. Probably the same with Kevin Spacey. I think Kevin Spacey's probably blacklisted.
Yeah, they're done.
They're
Well,
both
you've
done.
probably got some stuff though. See, if you're pulling them up on IMDb,
Well,
it's probably
Fahrenheit-
got stuff in production now.
Fahrenheit
Yeah.
11.9 is filming currently, and Polaroid is completed. But I feel like Polaroid being completed, they can still pull him as an executive producer.
Yeah,
I feel like
they're not going to put his name on it.
No, I think it's the same
done.
with Fahrenheit 9/11.
They probably even
11.9.
changed the name of the Weinstein Company for whatever it is now.
Yeah, I mean, when you get fired from the company that you founded,
Yeah.
and it's your name is
Yeah.
the name of the company, I mean.
So
But I guess he surrendered to police last Friday. Not this past Friday, like the 25th. Because
Yeah.
if you look at it, this is actually a photo of him surrendering to police.
Yeah.
The Friday before Memorial Day, because this is Memorial Day's paper.
Yeah.
And I mean, you got, who is it? It's Gwyneth Paltrow, Rose McGowan, Asia Argento, and Annabella Sciorra are all pictured here. Obviously, we've mentioned Mira Sorvino as another one. And I mean, the list goes on and on. I don't
Yeah.
remember all the names, but I mean, it's just a who's who of actresses in Hollywood have all accused him.
yeah,
And I think Mira Sorvino's she didn't get a part because
she was blacklisted because
So I mean,
because he had a lot of power.
so he's a pretty big sleaze.
Yeah.
And that's the classic example of abusing your power.
But it's a culture. It's been a culture of sleaze.
Oh yeah.
I mean, that's the thing is people that are abusive rise up to power pretty quickly because people don't want to. It's difficult for them to confront those type of people. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
We've all been in work environments where we've had the abusive boss, and they get there because they bully their way. It's just like Trump. He's the same MO, the same MO. I know Colin's gonna kill me, but so they bully their way in there, and people just don't know how to react to a full-on attack.
Right.
It's tough. It's tough for people to respond to that.
And just
Plus, these people will literally stab you in the back. I mean, really. I mean, if there wasn't like a death penalty or whatever, he would probably murder people. I mean, that's just if they want something, they'll take it, and so they'll ruin your career. They'll ruin ruin whatever, they'll do whatever they can to ruin you. So, and they'll play dirty. And so that's hard to deal with too, especially when they have money to do it, and you're limited on funds, because the only way you can defend yourself legally is, so that happens all the time, you know. So how do you gotta, that's how those people get away with it, because not enough people just take them down right in the beginning, or punish that bad behavior and get them out of the group. You know what I mean?
I mean, it's a pretty big list.
Oh yeah,
I mean,
It's a
I'm,
huge list,
I'm
yeah.
scrolling down on all the famous actresses, and it's a lot. Daryl Hannah, Rosanna Arquette, Gwyneth Paltrow, Angelina Jolie, Cara Delevingne, I don't even know how to pronounce her last name, Heather Graham, Uma Thurman. I mean, it's a lot. So,
oh yeah.
you know, I don't know. I mean, I think yeah, she was not happy that Annabelle Sciorra was not happy that he was let out on bail.
Oh yeah.
So she said he should be in jail.
You should be.
He should be in jail. Yeah. Now, as far as Kevin Spacey's concerned,
Is he in jail?
well, no, but I mean, you had the one specific with what was he, like a 13-year-old, like the younger kid.
It was
that
a
said-
teenager.
He
I
was
don't know.
teen,
how
He was
yeah.
a teenager.
And then you had the example of what you're talking about in London or England.
Oh,
wherever.
yeah.
Other than that, has anyone else really come out and like specifically? Like I know there's like rumors going around, but like has anyone famous come out?
No,
and
I
been,
haven't
like,
heard anyone else.
I haven't either.
But they just know that he was really abusive and dirtbag on the films that he worked on. Like he was just one of those, you know,
prima donnas.
prima donnas,
Yeah.
just degrading people. You know, acting swimming with sharks. That's basically that's Kevin Spacey.
Yeah.
Have you ever seen Swimming with Sharks?
Have you seen that?
No.
Oh, you
Oh,
gotta
it's-
see it. If you want to see who Kevin Spacey is,
It's
that's-
before he was big.
This
It's
is before
early
he
90s.
was big, and I know he chose the role because that's really how he felt inside.
Yeah.
And you know, he gravitated to that and allowed him the opportunity to be himself.
Be himself, yeah. And show off his acting talents at the same time.
Well, he wasn't showing. He
or
wasn't
he
acting.
wasn't. Yeah, he wasn't really acting.
know.
That's true.
So we should show a trailer of that, just so people have an idea of. There's no way for Colin to do that, but
No, if we had it set up earlier,
Yeah.
yeah. No, because it's funny because I'll bring that in for you to watch. It's actually funny. It's him and Frank Whaley pretty much the entire movie. It's just the two of them.
and he plays Kevin Spacey plays a producer like Harvey Weinstein.
Yeah.
Oh.
Who has
And
an
Frank
assistant.
Whaley's his assistant. And it's
and,
just
and he basically degrades this guy to the point of wanting to commit suicide or kill.
Kevin Spacey.
Kevin
It's-
Spacey.
And one of them almost happens. So no, it's a funny movie. It just shows
Yeah,
That's Kevin Spacey.
That's what ties it in, right? You watch Swim with Sharks, you'll see Kevin Spacey revealing who he truly wants to be.
Yeah.
And
It also reveals who Harvey Weinstein really
Yeah,
is.
and how he managed his production company. So watch Swimming with Sharks because it was a commentary on the brutal business of Hollywood, on how crummy it is. It was highlighting these type of work environments that people get into.
Now, was it produced by Harvey Weinstein?
I don't know. That's a good question. Was it produced by Harvey Weinstein? I doubt it, though.
I don't think so. I didn't see it on there, but I'm still on Harvey, so I'll check before I switch over to Kevin Spacey. Because that was early '90s. I want to say like '92. Definitely before Kevin Spacey was big.
So it was Swimming with Sharks. Was a commentary on trying to make it in Hollywood, and the type of abuses that how abusive producers are in Hollywood. It was done in the early '90s, and
He did not produce Swimming with Sharks.
so it was definitely a one of those type of films. So that's a perfect film to kind of understand the level of abuse that happens in Hollywood.
Did you watch Beautiful Girls yet?
Yeah.
Because that's a Harvey Weinstein. He co-produced or executive produced that.
Yeah, I wondered about that one.
Rounders. There's a lot of Ben Affleck, Matt Damon movies. So
Yeah, well, and Kevin Smith, Miramax.
yeah,
So, I mean, I wouldn't boycott all of Harvey Weinstein films that he's been in because there's other artists involved that are okay, and
Yeah.
and you're supporting. You're not just I mean, unfortunately, you may be supporting the Weinstein Fund, but all the other actors that were a part of it that are okay, they still get residuals anytime that film is purchased or airs on television. So, just you may not necessarily be. You're supporting all the other people that were involved in the project. And
Kevin Spacey, horrible bosses.
horrible bosses. Yeah,
There you go.
he gravitated to roles that he could, be himself. We all know that. The other question is American Beauty.
Yes. Yes.
I don't know if people won. It won an Oscar for Best Actor, Best Director,
Best picture, best
screenplay.
best screenplay. Yeah.
and
I think it won visual effects too. It won like 5 or 6 Oscars.
you know, this is kind of my argument. Is like, there's never been a film where a older woman, or I mean, you don't see too many films
where the older woman seduces a younger guy.
where an older woman. Maybe,
Obviously, The Graduate.
What
The
about
Graduate.
Yeah.
The Graduate comes
but
to mind.
it's not as common as
No.
films and that are about older men lusting after teenage girls. And American Beauty is one of those films.
Mid 40s, having a midlife crisis. His daughter's best friend. She's a cheerleader in high school.
Yeah, and the whole film is about him having a midlife crisis and coming to terms with, with his banal life in his typical suburban. That was sort of the metaphor, and how he came to a moment of what life's all about towards the end of the film. But he had to take this journey by lusting after a 16-year-old girl, and that was pretty much a main theme in the film.
Yeah,
and I'm
absolutely.
sitting there and wondering, and that makes sense that that American Beauty would win Oscars and that it would actually get approved, because you think you got a bunch of white dirtbag males in positions of power be like, this script's amazing. This is just like my life.
Exactly.
I guarantee you, that's how it went down, man. I could really relate to this character. I can really relate to this character. Right?
Well,
It's just like-
also, I mean, when you come down to it too, how he gets when he gets fired from his job with the $60,000.
Yeah.
He says, "How can I?" The classic line with the intern that's firing people or whatever, the guy
Yeah.
that they bring in. He's like, he pretty much says he's going to accuse him of sexual assault.
Yeah.
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 And so he walks away with $60,000, no questions asked.
Yeah. Yeah,
And
yeah.
he gets a job at like basically a McDonald's, and then
Yeah.
he goes home and buys his Camaro dream car or whatever.
Yeah, yeah.
But it all kind of ties in. I mean, it's,
Yeah, it all kind of it would make sense that something like that. It seemed like none of them had any. Maybe it's a little bit of a confession for some of these, but it's because you'd think they'd sit around and be like, oh well, the Bible Belt one, or this is a piece of art. I don't think it's a piece of art anymore. You take a look at it and you really think about it. It's like, I don't think there was any moment in the film where they made you feel like this guy was bad for thinking that. I don't know. They towed the line on that. It was
Not
pretty-
really.
You know what I mean?
They didn't really make you feel. They made him the lovable character of the movie.
Yeah.
I mean, and
But wasn't the whole theme, and she was only a part of the whole thing, was that he was going back to this like simpler time in his life.
Midlife crisis back when he was in high school. Yeah.
Well, like he realized that he had bought into all this like crap as far as like a culture. He'd bought into this whole middle class
Yeah.
life where
Yeah.
it was all about your possessions, and he was
Yeah.
married to this wife
Well,
that was
yeah.
like a piece of crap.
Yeah.
And,
very neurotic and just,
Yeah, so he went back to this time when
Yeah.
what was important was, like the Camaro,
Yeah.
the girl.
Started smoking weed with the high school kid next door. I mean,
Yeah, trying to find out what's real. You
Yeah.
know, what.
yeah, it's the typical midlife crisis where he's
Oh,
trying to relive his glory days.
But I mean, in the end, he doesn't end up having sex with the girl. So I mean, to associate that he was like he was lusting after her, but in the end, he more kind of saw her as like a daughter figure. In the end, and when that realization came, that's kind of when he kind of
Yeah, I
clicked
would
back.
call it a Hollywood confessional piece. Like these are my sins. Me lusting after these young women, and then towards the end of the film, Kevin Spacey, he's lusting for innocence. Okay, it's basically, what it is when he was a teenager, and that's what she represents, and vitality and innocence. And then towards the end of the film, I think something happened to her where he had to take a step back and said, "Oh, this is a human being." Right?
Well,
I would think that they're all reading this like, oh yeah, this is true. Like this is my life.
Well, I
here.
think she tells him it's his first time, and that's what kind of makes him
exactly
realize.
But in Harvey Weinstein's case, and most of the dirtbags that read the screenplay and thought it was the best thing in the world,
yeah, I mean, like,
it was like a little bit of a confession for them. A little bit of like, let's go in the confessional booth and right.
I guess
Well, why would it win an Oscar?
Well, I mean, I thought it was genuinely. I thought it was a good movie. I thought it was well
It's
acted.
done well and well
Yeah,
acted.
exactly. I mean,
But why would these themes be something that you would want to, like, you know?
I don't know. That's
You
why
think
we're
it
having
was-
the conversation. I mean,
Well, didn't they have
might be
several-
it might be an honest look, yeah. So maybe that's why you win the Oscar. But I mean, you know, I don't know. I mean, just people in Hollywood vote on these films as Best Picture.
Yeah.
So, and they approve them. So what I'm saying, all I'm saying is maybe there was honesty in that character. And
oh
who
yeah,
type
no,
of
no,
person
I
he
get
was,
that. I totally get
the
that.
type of person he was.
But I do honestly think it
But
was
there
a
was a-
very well done movie.
a
too,
blind
so.
spot, though, I think, you know, at the time, because I mean, if you live in a culture where it's
Well, it was probably mainstream.
Yeah.
And so it just wasn't looked at.
maybe it's more of a metaphor on Hollywood, because Hollywood does take in innocence and destroy it, and use it and rape it for its own benefit, whether using the person as the star of a show or a pop star or a famous female actor. I mean, their innocence is gone by the time they've ran through their stardom. You know what I mean?
Yeah. I mean, that's a good way of looking at it.
Well, and that's coming back to like that to like the starlets. If you look at some of these women
Yeah.
with Harvey Weinstein, right now on this page, and we're only looking at a couple here. Gwyneth Paltrow might be the only exception. These other women are pretty much done.
Yeah.
And are women in general, actresses in Hollywood are pretty much done after their beauty fades for the most part. There are very few that kind of are able to stick it out and take it to the next level, after
Yeah.
after their beauty's gone. But are these women done because of him?
Yeah.
Because he,
That's a good
in
question.
the case of Annabella Sciorra, I think she's traumatized. She was traumatized after the whole thing. She was raped.
Oh yeah, yeah. A lot of cases they were done, or if they refused, he would make it hard for them to
Yeah, blacklist them. Make sure that they
continue
get
their
You,
career.
you brought up Mira Sorvino. I mean, she was pretty much cruising. She had won an Academy Award.
For Mighty Aphrodite, she was in Summer of Sam. She was in The Replacement Killers. She had some big blockbuster movies. And then once she refused to have sex with him, I guess she was pretty much blacklisted from Hollywood.
Right.
And she was a very talented actress.
Yeah, and that's what happens. I mean, the lifespan is about 5 years for a male and a female, but it's the percentage for female leads is of dropping out at the 5 years is a lot harder because, like you said, there's the beauty factor. There's, there's a crappy work environment. I'm sure Harvey Weinstein's production isn't the only one where they're constantly, you know what I mean? It's
Oh,
like,
yeah,
why do
no, exactly.
Why do I even want to be in this business anymore? You know what I mean?
I mean, look at all the
You
people
know.
that are accused.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You know?
I mean, for a while, it seemed like every day there was someone else getting accused of something.
So, So yeah, there's always. I mean, it's always been a classic trope of Los Angeles is that. It first started with the novel "The Day of the Locusts." You ever read that? So that's a novel written in the 1920s, and that's about 1930s. That's about Hollywood, and it creates these metaphors. These majestic facades that are created, and it's all image, but behind that image is a decrepit, grotesque. Society of people trying to make it or that are dead. So it's always been a common trope, that what's behind the facade, which is real, which is base, because the business is pretty crummy. You also have a lot of dirtbags that just go into it to launder money, or con or scam people, and these are films that you never see.
Yeah.
So. And drugs, just like the music business, infiltrates the business because it's pretty laissez-faire, event. So.
Right.
Just looking up. This is that's the cover of Swimming with Sharks. Just to give you
right.
kind of idea, I mean, it's him yelling at his assistant essentially, just
Yeah.
saying ruthless, two-faced, revenge, backstabbing. So, I'll bring that in for you next week 'cause it's a good movie. I don't know. Do you want to continue going on with shaming? Because there's a movie that Don and I were kind of thinking about talking about.
Yeah, go ahead.
Well, I'm sure you've seen it too, Prisoners.
Prisoners.
Don just watched it for the first time.
Oh, who's in it?
Hugh Jackman, Jake Gyllenhaal, Terrence Howard,
Paul Dano.
Paul Dano. What's Terrence Howard's wife's name? Maria Bello and
Viola Davis.
Viola Davis. It's got a really good cast. It's Hugh Jackman and Terrence Howard are like best friends and they're next door neighbors. And their two young girls go missing. You haven't seen that?
No, but yeah, what is it?
Oh,
yeah,
man.
Yeah. Talk about it.
I don't want to ruin it for you.
No, it's
we were
fine.
talking about it before you got here.
Yeah.
Well, what did you think?
I really liked it.
I mean-
I couldn't stop thinking about it after the movie was over.
I lent it to
Yeah,
him.
they get what happens is they have like a holiday get together, the two best friends, and the two little girls are pretty much about the same age, and basically they're in their little neighborhood. They're not even out anywhere, and somehow these two little girls disappear.
Oh.
Like they just went outside the house and disappeared from like in front of their house.
Look at the rating.
So the movie
Yeah.
is about them trying to find the family. These four men trying to find the two little girls that have been.
Well, it's
Right.
the two fathers, but Hugh Jackman is convinced that a mentally ill man, who's played by Paul Dano, he's convinced that he took them because his
Yeah.
car, he had a, what was it, Volkswagen?
Like a camper.
Yeah. Or yeah, no, it's like a camper.
I think I've seen this movie, or maybe
Got
there's,
an 8.1 on IMDb.
there's another movie that's exactly.
Jake Gyllenhaal's the cop that's put in charge, the detective.
Oh yeah, I saw this movie.
Okay.
Yes.
Yeah,
That's
so,
why
yeah.
it's hitting me. Yeah. No,
Yeah.
it was a very powerful
Oh yeah.
film. I can't remember though what I mean. It was.
So Hugh
It was
Jackman
powerful
essentially
and good,
thinks
but
that
there
Paul
wasn't-
Dano is guilty. Like he knows in his head he's guilty. So he kidnaps him, takes him hostage,
Yeah.
and tortures. Like, I mean, it's pretty
That's
brutal.
right. So his soul is ruined after that. I remember after he tortures him, and then he realizes it wasn't him, or I don't think they never resolve that, do they?
I think he does at the end find out that it wasn't him, but he didn't stop because he didn't think it was him.
It's a tragedy. It's about a man trying to deal with grief, but then going further down the rabbit's hole, and then where he's completely destroyed his soul.
Well, and he's also bringing Terrence Howard along for the ride, and Terrence Howard really,
Yeah, I remember there was a
he
pretty
kind of breaks down.
powerful scene where he's
Terrence
caught-
Howard's in tears,
Yeah.
and he's like, "This
It's
is
called
wrong.
The Destruction of Revenge. It's a classic revenge story.
Yeah,
Yeah, it was a really great film.
yeah, it was.
There just wasn't anything that was maybe too like memorable that makes it stick out. To be
Well, Don and I were talking about the end. Do you remember the end?
no,
Because
that's why I.
Oh, wait, this is spoiler alert, people, because
Yeah.
if we're talking about the end of the movie, you're
Yeah,
gonna be-
it's
but I
definitely
mean,
a good film to watch. Yeah,
we
don't get
had
me
two
wrong.
different perspectives on how it possibly ended because you don't actually
I
know.
remember him standing somewhere and then some sound effect in an abandoned building.
I think I want to say he's in a cellar or a well. I think it might be a well
It's like this hole that's dug.
that he can't climb out of. He would need someone's help, and Jake Gyllenhaal.
Jackman, right?
Yeah, and Jake Gyllenhaal's walking around, and at the very end, just as it's about to go to black, you could hear Hugh Jackman, and then Jake Gyllenhaal just kind of looks up, and then the movie ends. So my question,
I'm trying to remember, why did Hugh Jackman get stuck in the hole?
because
the
he
actual
found out
killer-
who the actual killer
the
was,
actual
and
killer
she
put him in there,
She
yeah.
put him in there,
Yeah.
and so I was asking,
Yeah, I remember
I was
that,
asking
yeah.
Don, do you think he let him out? Because I'm under the assumption it could have gone two ways. Either he lets him out and arrests him, or he just leaves him there to make him suffer for what he did.
Yeah, no, they ended it on the right note. I think. I think the point was that it doesn't matter if he lets him out or not. He's already past the point of no return. There's no redemption. That it's a revenge story and how his lust for revenge
Ruined
and
his
his
life.
ability to be able to deal with the grief destroyed. Didn't he have another kid or something? I can't remember.
Yeah,
He has
an
a
older
son,
kid.
an older
He had
son.
an older son. He had a family that, but he.
Yeah, he was
Yeah.
kind of making the oldest son be the
So
man of
it
the
was
house
a-
because
it
he
was
was
a morality.
drinking a lot and he was
Yeah.
staying
Yeah.
at the house that his father owned that he was supposedly renovating, but he wasn't. He was torturing Paul Dano in it.
Yeah.
and he almost gets caught by
Yeah, and it was
Jake Gyllenhaal.
playing on the themes of, what's the line between the actual murderer and the revengeful father.
Well, do you
Well,
think
the other
that,
thing is there wasn't a murder because the girls come back and they're found safely.
Oh, were they? Yeah,
Yeah.
that's probably why.
So I mean,
which isn't
it's-
that's why you forgot it, because that piece is not necessarily the important part
Well,
of
they
it.
should have made it, because then that's the whole key. Because he was already past the point of he had already.
well, he was past the point
That
regardless.
was the tragedy of the story. Was he was already past the point of no return, and then his daughters come back, but he's already.
He's gone. He's already passed.
already-
Yeah,
He's already made the
He's already
mistake.
lost.
He's already ruined his life and destroyed.
Well, do you think it has something to say about torture, though? Because that was right
Yeah,
about
it
the
was right,
time.
yeah.
What was it, like 2014?
2013 is when it came out.
It's right about the whole time where torture was a big deal. Like,
Yeah.
didn't have Zero Dark 30 came out right about the same time.
Yeah.
All about torturing people in order to get information, and that's basically why he was torturing. them.
Yeah, he was. He,
was-
he kept saying, "Where is my girl?"
Yeah,
you know,
it
and then
was-
as he was just pounding his
It was
face,
an
in.
allegory, yeah, for
right.
torturing the United States, torturing, for the United, but they brought it so you could, on an emotional level, you know.
I mean, because Paul Dano never gives him any information. Basically, probably because he doesn't know anything,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
I mean,
Right.
basically, he wasn't guilty of anything, so he
would
didn't
think,
know anything.
You would think he didn't know anything because if I knew something at that point, I would have said something. Because I mean, he gets to the point where he's like burning him with scalding hot water.
Yeah.
You know, and he's locked in a wall, like that big, like just enough space for his body.
Yeah, it's all starting
You know,
to come back. Yeah,
I mean, it's like complete isolation from everything. You know,
yeah, I thought
mean?
it was, yeah. Yeah, I
Well,
thought-
what about the whole idea of like convicting people, before they have a trial? So basically, he's already convicted this guy and said he's guilty of this crime.
there
he
was
made
that
up his
element of
mind
it.
he was
And
guilty.
there was
Well,
a-
I think the other part of
probably-
that too, though, is the police let him go because they said they didn't have any evidence. So there may never have even been a trial, and I think that's what really set Hugh Jackman off because he asked Jake Gyllenhaal specifically, he's like, keep him for another 24 hours, please, keep him for another 24 hours.
Which they could have done.
And Jake Gyllenhaal goes to his superior, and he's like, no, he lets him go. And Hugh Jackman shows up as they're letting him go and tackles him and gets on top of him, and he says he heard something about like they were singing "Jingle Bells, Batman Smells" or something like that.
Oh, he was singing that when he was walking the
Yeah,
dog.
that too. Yeah, but he also said he said something to him. Remember, he's like, he said this in my ear. He said this in my ear.
He said they they cried when I left.
Yeah.
No.
Yeah.
But there is that's interesting. I remember there was that theme in there. You're convicting someone without a trial or a jury, and
Yeah.
and the whole torturing thing, and I remember all that now. And that's why the movie is called Prisoners, because they're all prisoners of their own their own emotions, their own ideology. But when you're talking about, there's a film called M that I think was done, and it's an old film, so nobody's gonna want to watch it. You can watch it online, but
But nobody's gonna watch
with
it.
Peter Lorre.
those themes of convicting the mob versus the justice and mob mentality was addressed in M. Was Fritz Lang's a great filmmaker. He did Metropolis, and he kind of started the whole film noir genre. It was back in the 1930s. But Peter Lorre, the classic scenes, any serial killer movie or horror film, they have the balloon going up in the air, when the child, that all started with that film, M. The sort of thriller serial killer film all started with M, that type of noir. Because, the film is about Peter Lorre in Germany. He's a serial child killer, and he's a serial killer. And he's got the town, he's killed a bunch of children, and the first scene in the movie is one of the motifs is he whistles, and throughout, you hear his whistle, but you don't see him until 3/4 of the film. So he's murdered these child, so the police are trying to find him. And so the police and the town is in fear of their children, and so the police go hitting up all the crime bars where all the criminals hang out and harassing them because they think it's like this traditional criminal guy. And then the criminals are all angry because their business is being affected because the police are on them looking for the serial killer. So the criminals decide to go out and find this guy. So what happens is the police don't find the serial killer, the criminals do. And the criminals drag him down the street and take him up to some abandoned building and have a mock trial to execute him. And so you really don't like Peter Lorre's character, but then you don't really ever like him, but he starts begging for his life, and then there's a whole theme of like, I forget, there's another character, but the whole theme was, he should be prosecuted under the law. You shouldn't just, drag him out on the street and kill him. And I forget what happens. Do you remember what happens at the end of that film?
This
It's a
sounds
good film.
interesting. I want to watch this.
The film has a lot of those visual cues that you're used to from seeing from that genre, but
Right.
it did what it was also a metaphor on fascism, because fascism grew out of the beer halls of Germany. It was a mob movement based on anger and frustration with society. And so that it was also a metaphor on that, just how the mob can easily overrun law and order, and decide whether or not they want to execute somebody.
So is this in subtitles? Is this like?
Yeah, but it's a classic film.
Yeah, I'm not gonna watch it.
Oh.
I don't have the.
Well, it's
Might even be on YouTube.
I don't
yeah,
have
it
the
is on
attention
YouTube. It's a
span.
good film to watch because all those visual cues and all that sort of kind of standards, the way that genre was set up, they all harken back to that. Even if maybe the filmmakers didn't watch that film, it was like filmmakers closer to that time watched that film and added to it. So the type of visual cues that he established in that type of genre still remain today because he was one of the first ones. So
It's number 79 on IMDb.
yeah, because it's a good film. It's Fritz Lang, man.
It's an 8.4.
You should like all those films. Like I tell people you should watch some of these films because just prior to the war and during the war, films that were out in Hollywood and Europe were really raunchy, deep films that had come out. You have the whole Warner Brothers gangster movies during that time, and the screwball comedies came out of that time that you're used to now with every comedy film, that intonation and that pacing. What Frank Capra films,
Right.
during that whole genre, he created that whole genre, which they still use that type of the bantering back and forth.
But still, that was really fast paced. I don't even know if they compete with that right
No,
now.
like all of his films are fast paced, and you think some of these films are pretty. Hitchcock came into being during that time. So there's a lot of lists of films that you watch, and you'll watch these films, and you'll recognize them because the classic ones, the ones that define the style that you continue to see today. Those screwball buddy comedies all came from. Those screwball romance comedies that you see with Adam Sandler, and any of those, they all harken back to Frank Capra films in the 1930s.
Right.
Trying to think of a couple. There's a couple of them, but you should watch M if you want to see how the film noir serial killer genre started.
No, I totally would watch it if it wasn't in subtitles. I can't do subtitles. I've tried and I just.
And Fritz Lang started the sci-fi genre, and the moral, the motif, and the philosophical questions that sci-fi, the good ones, open up with Metropolis, and all those classic visuals. You'll see them, but the burdened society, the workers. There's all these classic images that people built upon and that they still use today. So, have you seen Metropolis?
I have not seen Metropolis.
Yeah. So, but you'll recognize it. The images are really iconic. So,
What year was Metropolis?
it's the 30s.
Is it?
Yeah.
'Cause I haven't seen many.
Duck Soup. Nobody's gonna, but Duck Soup is another one of those comedy films that you'll watch and you'll be like, the comedy's still fresh in some scenes. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It still lasts today. Even in those Frank Capra films that I've been talking about too, they're still kind of.
They still kind of.
There was a lot of snark back in the 30s, and then the snark kind of went away after the 40s into the 50s. But they had some pretty snarky, some of those classic, all those gangster films with James Cagney and all those films. The current gangster film all harkens back to those same kind of tropes and genres. So, anyways,
Well, getting back to the Prisoners movie, I mean, we look at what Hugh Jackman did, that character, and we think like, oh, he was a bad guy for doing what he did, but in his place, his emotion gets taken away from him, He really wants the answers. And here was I mean, I don't know if this is cliched, but something I was wondering if it would have helped the movie was, would this all happen within the course of like a week? You know, because there are points where he goes, it's only been 2 days.
Yeah.
What if they had like, day one? Almost like they did with
Seven.
Gone Girl.
Yeah, they did it with 7 too.
Yeah.
I mean, what if they had done that? Because to be honest with you, I kind of didn't have that sense of time when I was watching this movie. And
I didn't
maybe
either.
if he hadn't have said that, then it wouldn't have brought me back. I wouldn't have known. But if they'd have kind of set that thing and had like, day one, day two,
Yeah.
and given you the time that this was happening, it would have made things much more
All they
vital.
had to do was watch M. Because M did the same thing. Yeah, no, actually, that probably, yeah, because it was hard. You were assuming that this was like months apart.
Oh yeah, yeah. I
And
did.
then, but if by adding the days, it would seem a lot more immediate.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
And when it is
yeah.
immediate, then you understand the motivation for his
Yeah.
character to have
Yeah.
to go after this guy and try to get this guy
Yeah,
to say something about where these kids
yeah,
are.
because you're thinking the whole time in the movie, you're not sure about the time, but you're thinking like, this guy is not being talked to, sit back and have a beer, and you know what I mean. But having it be, that would have made it a lot.
Because part of this was, it's not like he's a bad guy, because they really, for us, the audience, they really tried to present to us. They had the scene where he said something, and I went back and rewound it. Because Hugh Jackman said, he said this to me. And I'm thinking, did he really say that? So I went back and I listened to it. And sure enough, he says,
I rewound it too.
he goes, they cried when I left.
Yeah. I rewound it too because.
And then the
I was
dog
curious.
scene, and he was singing the song. He was singing the Christmas song.
Batman and Robin, yeah. Robin laid an egg.
So it
whatever.
really made you think, like, oh, this at that point when he yanks the dog by the collar,
Yeah.
you think, oh, he did this.
Yeah, exactly.
And Hugh Jackman's got him,
And the fact, like you said, he ran from the police.
right? Which we can't explain. We didn't know
No,
why it
exactly,
happened.
because his camper was parked outside, right past where they lived. And the girls had climbed on the camper earlier, and the older brother was like, no, get down, let's go back. And then,
Well, I think, and here's the flip side, where you asked the question about at the end, Jake Gyllenhaal's character, the detective, would he have left them in there and tortured him? And I don't think he's got that type of vengeance because he doesn't have that motivation.
yeah, he's not.
He's got no need.
Yeah, he's not invested like Hugh Jackman is. I mean, it's Hugh
Right.
Jackman's little girl.
It's actually, I mean, if you think about it, I mean, Jake Gyllenhaal, there's a point in the movie, which I thought was kind of interesting about him. I'm wondering did you notice in the movie, in the very, very beginning of the movie, and they probably do it throughout, they show the cross. The cross is hanging in somebody's car. I think the camper, he's driving around it, and there was a song about Jesus in the camper. And then maybe it was Hugh Jackman's truck. He's got a cross hanging. And then in somebody's bedroom, there's the cross on the wall. Well, Jake Gyllenhaal's dressed like in all black in this thing. And I
Yeah.
wondered if he was supposed to be like I don't know, it's not really a Christ figure, but like the priest figure. And that's why in the end, because all these things start, if you think about it, all the things that came together, somebody said in the film, they go, he solved everything. They go, don't worry about this. He's solved every
Every case,
case
yeah.
that he's had. And sure enough, he pulls in pieces where he's got the priest and he finds the body in the basement.
Mm-hmm.
There's a piece of that comes back. This woman in the camper van, the other guy that they think did it.
Yeah,
they
the
find
creepy looking guy, yeah.
the snakes in the boxes and stuff.
Yep.
That guy, it gets pulled in. So and then even Paul Dano's character, they say toward the end, they say, yeah, he was a kidnapped child himself. He was a victim.
Yeah.
So they pull it all, and Jake Gyllenhaal's kind of pulled the whole thing together in the end. And then finding the guy was the final piece. So it was kind of like, as the detective, he wasn't going to torture him.
No, I didn't think
I'm sure he took him out, and I'm
I
sure
didn't think he would torture him.
and I'm sure he probably would have had to say to him, yeah, he would have arrested him, because there was a point there where he was basically saying to Hugh Jackman, you got to trust me. I'm going to do everything I've got, everything I can. And Hugh Jackman didn't.
No, he
Hugh
was too
Jackman was like,
impatient. He was just like, nope.
no way, this guy's not invested. He's not going to find my kids. But Jake Gyllenhaal was going to do it. He was going through every step that he had, and then he started to question himself, like, geez, am I really doing this? I can't find the leads that I need to move this along.
Yeah.
And he can't do it under time. That was part of the whole. I think that's part of why the time crush would have been so thing, because it would have, not only would it have put into perspective the whole Hugh Jackman character and how vital it was, but it would have been for Jake Gyllenhaal too.
Yeah.
The clock's ticking.
Yeah.
You know,
I
and-
guess that's something I need to re-edit. Just put
Yeah.
just put titles on it.
It just was a thought that I had, and I said, here's another thing I said to Joey was, I would have liked to have seen one more scene with Paul Dano toward the end. And I don't even know what it was. I don't even know what I wanted to see from him. But just to kind of, the last you see, I think they're hauling him out of the shower. I don't even,
think, yeah.
and they don't even show him.
No, I think that was the
But it's a scene where they're getting him, and I wonder. Well, maybe there's really nothing to be said for him, but something I was kind of hungering for, some scene.
I think I remember in that movie he wasn't the one, but he did do something else though. Right?
I don't think so.
Paul Dano?
The guy that was
I don't think so.
probably why I didn't really, because I felt really bad for the guy that got tortured. I mean,
Yeah. He just happened to be at the wrong place at the wrong time.
Yeah.
And then he ran.
that was the tragedy of the whole thing. That another innocent person was, well, the daughters were saved, right? Yeah.
Yeah, the daughters came back.
But an
okay.
innocent man got killed.
Yeah. Well, no, he doesn't die, but severely beaten and tortured.
Yeah.
Like,
And they didn't even highlight that.
Right.
not really.
That's
That
why I
would-
think
but
they,
that's what you're saying.
I think they needed a scene.
Yeah, they needed to like some sort of closure with his
Some kind of-
character.
yeah.
Not closure, just be like, look, this guy didn't do anything. He got his ass beat.
Exactly.
Because the whole scene of the cruelty with the dog is, you think if
Was-
he was abducted as a kid, which we didn't know at the time,
No.
if he was abducted
Yeah.
and then they were kind of controlling him, he's only doing it to the dog. It's like shit rolls downhill.
Yeah.
Oh, I said that on the air.
That's okay. Too late now.
It was, yeah.
But it was an interesting film. I mean,
It
like
was.
you
That's
say,
why I wanted you to watch it, because I figured you'd like it and it'd be a good conversation piece.
And it was directed by the guy, he's a pretty hot director now, Denis Villeneuve, who did, he did that last, not too
Nocturnal Animals, right? He did another.
Oh shoot! What's the name of it? With the Harrison Ford movie, 2049. That's the name of it. I can't think of it.
Oh, Blade Runner.
Oh,
Blade
he did
Runner.
Blade Runner, yeah.
He just did the most recent Blade
Yeah.
Runner. He did The Arrival.
Oh,
with
The
Amy
Arrival, yeah.
Adams.
Yeah,
Maybe that's from Arrival.
Yep.
He
Arrival
did,
was a great film.
Sicaro.
He doesn't, I know, he don't like to put time dates on things. Because The Arrival was
I think
all
he
about
did
not
Enemy.
knowing when things have happened, at what time, until
Right.
the end. That was his whole, he wanted to keep it just ethereal, like the way a human memories would be. But I think
Yeah, he
in
did
this,
this one too. Jake Gyllenhaal, Enemy. I heard it's pretty good.
Enemy. Yeah.
I think
What's
it-
that one rate? 6.9. That's pretty good.
I'm thinking in your case though, he definitely needed and prisoners needed the time thing.
He also used the same musical guy. He used that Johan Johansson. Is that what the guy's name is? That
I
did
think
the
so,
music.
yeah.
And then he died after. I don't know if he did the music for. He might have done music for
Prisoners?
Blade Runner,
Oh, Blade Runner.
but he died. He died pretty recently, and his music was really, I don't know, praised. But The Arrival, it bugged me. He had that sound. There was some kind of a sound in it that really bugged me about it. So I don't know. I think the combo of all these different things really was kind of an interesting film.
Yeah.
All right, but we do have to close up, guys. So.
We do.
So I don't know. Maybe names from a hat next week again. We'll figure something out.
We could do names from a
If
hat.
Alex wants to be on the show again next week, you're more than welcome. But this was our episode
We're
of
making-
Next Pictures this week. One of your hosts, Joey Powers.
I'm Don Trutler.
See you at the movies.